All living things are connected by the same thread. A thread woven through all of existence. Some call it a force, but we know the thread is not a power you wield. It ties you to your destiny. It binds you to others.
The first 2 episodes were solid, and I really liked the new characters and the mystery angle. What will the third entry hold in store for us? Will it stay on par with the first chapters? Hi there, it's Micha. Join me if you like to get my take on this. The episode starts on Brandok, 16 years before the main timeline of a series. We meet Osha and May as they were kids, living with their mothers, all part of a large coven of witches, who hid away on this planet. While Osha is more reclusive and don't want to be defined by being a twin, her sister wants to be always around her.
When I can't find you, I look here.
But that is not the only difference. While Osha is more respectful of her surroundings, instantly regretting even slightly using the force, or here better called magic, on small animals, May apparently doesn't share that restraint.
Let it go, May. Stop! Why do you always have to do things like that?
For both, their ascension ceremony is approaching, where the young girls will be initiated into the coven, officially becoming witches.
I don't want to do the ascension. It's just a ceremony. Besides, we'll do it together.
A perspective Osha doesn't look forward to, as she wants to travel across the galaxy, while May is happy where she is.
Don't you wonder what could be out there? Everything I need is here.
In the middle of a ceremony, after May ascended, and before Osha,
Do you vow upon my death to protect the secrets of our coven and continue our legacy?
after very hesitantly agreeing to it,
Two?
could follow her, 4 Jedi entered and interrupted the ritual and friendly yet unmistakably requested the twins to be tested to see if they are candidates for becoming Padawans.
Mother Anastasia, you cannot deny that Jedi have the right to test potential Padawans. With your permission, of course.
To avoid a potentially armed conflict, their mother and leader of a coven agrees to it. So the next day the kids are brought before the Jedi. Instructed by their mothers to always say the opposite so that they fail the test, Osha, who is fascinated by the Jedi and actually wants to join them,
You have to lie. I want to say what's in my heart. Promise me.
again
Fine.
hesitantly agrees.
I promise.
May easily failed the test that way, but Osha is kindly tricked into admitting the ruse.
Tell us what you see.
A mountain.
Correct.
That wasn't
So she aced the test, much to her sister's chagrin. Even though becoming a Jedi means leaving her family forever, this is what Osha chooses to do. And her mother heavy-heartedly agrees. However, May wouldn't let her leave. She locks Osha into her room and burns the book her sister filled with all her dreams and ideas. Next thing, the whole door is on fire, endangering Osha, who escapes through a service tunnel leading to the reactor where she encounters May.
Mama's dead.
And the 2 girls blame each other for it.
What have you done? What have you done?
Then the whole structure collapses, and while May apparently fell to her death, Jedi Master Soul rescued Osha from the same fate and leads her to safety, passing by the bodies of the Coven, including her mother. The episode ends with Osha awaking on the Jedi Star Cruiser on their way to Coruscant, with Soul promising to take her on as his Padawan, while May turns out to be alive and looking for Osha, but not finding her in her favorite spot, assuming that her sister is dead. I wasn't surprised to see a flashback, and I even expected a longer one around the events on Brandok, but I was not expecting it so early. That is mainly because I assumed it to solve the main mystery. While indeed they only solved parts of it, while opening up more questions. And that way it makes absolute sense. We learned that the twins were quite different, May even showing some of the usual signs you see in a sociopath, like torturing animals, though it could be played down by just being a kid teasing its surroundings, meant here to just trick us into believing her to be that way. At the end of the day, while we know now what happened to their family, we still don't know how it happened, because we only see May burning the book. How the door caught fire and how the coven dies is still a mystery. As May did not even stand next to the burning door, the truth likely is that she did not cause it. For some reason, May thinks the Jedi are to blame, so I guess there is more she knows about it, or at least thinks she does. Like I said, it is still a mystery. I wouldn't be surprised if they both turned out to be innocent and have a nice reunion in the end. But back to the past. What happened to May afterwards? As everyone from the coven was dead and she was alone on the planet. Did she live there for years on her own? Did someone else survive? When was she picked up, or did the coven had a ship she could use? Another mystery introduced was how the twins even came to be. As in a coven only consisting of women in isolation, understandably having kids was not an option. We know that it was no immaculate conception though.
I carried them.
I created them.
And what happens if the Jedi discover how you created them?
So were they just born via in vitro fertilization, or were they truly created, as her mother suggested? And if so, by magic, meaning using the Force, or something else entirely? Quick side note, it was a little bit of a head scratcher for me that the twins doesn't really look alike. I already noticed that in the first episode where Osha had her vision. Does that have something to do with them being created? I don't really think so. I guess it is just a confusing casting choice. They are played by real-life twins, though I guess not identical twins. Would be no issue if the adult versions weren't played by the same actor, therefore looking totally identical. Maybe there will be an explanation, so I will only highlight this for now, but don't consider it as a flaw. Anyway, I like that they brought in witches, as that topic, first introduced to the movie and TV side of a franchise by the character Asajj Ventress in the Clone Wars series, always had some intriguing aspects that were never fully examined there. While those Night Sisters on Dathomir were considered using the dark side of the Force, it seems that this coven here is likely more on the light side, and don't even refer to the Force as that, but as an energy thread connecting the entire universe. Usually it is black and white, Sith and Jedi, and originally nothing in between was presented in the past. Then the witches were introduced, and Star Wars Rebels brought in other creatures who stayed neutral. And Ahsoka introduced Force wielders with their own agenda who don't identify as either Jedi nor Sith. Those are topics they should lean more into, like what happens to someone who is a Force-sensitive being but doesn't pursue that. Or at least not by joining either side. Maybe this is exactly what we will see here. One thing this show reminded me of, something almost not present in the original trilogy, but heavily leaned on in the prequels, is the structure of a Jedi community, which actually is pretty much a religious cult. They don't allow any bonds, especially no romantic entanglements. They have temples, they take kids away from their families and don't allow them to ever visit them again. We tend to ignore that, as Jedi are always presented as something pristine and perfect, because they are serving the common good. However, there is a shady element to them, which is even highlighted by them spying on the coven.
That marking, it wasn't there this morning.
You're spying on us?
They want to take our children!
And by them basically demanding the kids to be handed to them. Though there is one important call-out.
We are concerned that you are training children. The Republic law states...
Brendok is not a part of the Republic.
So what is the law? Can Jedi just claim kids even outside of the Republic? Were they breaking the law there, or do they consider themselves as a group above any laws and jurisdictions? At the same time, it is suggested that the witches had to hide on the planet.
I told you this planet would be safe haven for our coven.
Are they persecuted? If so, by the Jedi for using the Force without being a Jedi? That would be interesting, as it would also show another side of that oh so pristine order. But if not, who or what pushed the coven into hiding? This though may not be answered in this show, but maybe on a larger scale somewhere in the future in a galaxy far, far away. And with that being said, let's get to the rating. Well, I originally planned to keep my weekly reviews for this show shorter, and maybe I will be able to do so in the future. But this time there was just so much worth mentioning. Like having a flashback that early on, which surprised me and made the show shift into a different gear. We learned a lot about the character's backstory, and some parts of the enigma were unveiled, while the main mystery remained unresolved. And we were just given further pieces of a puzzle. I noticed that while this show is not as heavy on action elements as other Star Wars properties, I don't mind that at all, as the mystery and storytelling is keeping me interested, which, if it applies, is always a convincing point a show can make. Likely some of you may get bothered or even bored by the lack of spectacle though, which makes it worth pointing out. I might bore you with this, but I'm rating this one again with 8 out of 10 points, being optimistic that this trend will continue through the rest of the season. Fingers crossed. By the way, in my last review I mentioned that I'm looking forward to see more of the Wookiee Jedi Master, as May is on her way to his hiding place. While the current flashback was putting that event on pause, we will likely see him more heavily featured in the next chapter. And we did get a small glimpse of him in this episode too, so all is fine. What about you? Were you also entertained by this episode even though it went a different route, or liked it for that exact reason? Do you enjoy the show so far, or is it not your cup of tea? Whatever you like to share, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, share or subscribe. And like I mentioned last time, if you like to get my take on the show's controversy or a quick overview on my stance regarding the entire Star Wars franchise, then check out my review for the first episode of this show. You can find it linked in just a moment. So much for now, see you next time and thanks for watching. And her mother heavy-heartedly agrees. We learned that the twins truly created as her mother suggested. Mother. They don't allow any bonds, especially no romantic